Interfaith Worship, When the Sacred Becomes Profane, by Donnie Fuchs. Recently, I put out a presentation entitled When Rabbis Who Behave Like Pastors, to deal with Orthodox Jewish rabbis, the strange, shocking, disturbing phenomenon, who engage in interfaith dialogue and prayer and teaching Torah with evangelical missionaries. Fact: Rabbi Pesach Woliki engages in radical interfaith worship and Torah study activities with evangelical missionaries. While he would not engage in a civil discussion with me, and indeed made efforts to prevent that from happening by blocking me, a colleague procured a copy of Rabbi Woliki's halachic sources from him. After cross-referencing the texts, I discovered that he was using a censored text of Maimonides when referencing the former's position involving the permissibility of Gentiles bringing sacrifices to the temple. To contextualize, it's very important to realize the backdrop of the Rambam and his philosophical and halachic approach to Christianity. It's very clear that he believed, and he said this without mincing words, that Christianity was idolatry. So that's very important off the cuff. Nevertheless, we're dealing with the permissibility, according to Rambam, of Gentiles to bring a certain type of sacrifice to the temple under certain conditions. Rabbi Woliki attempts to justify his engagement in interfaith worship by citing a Rambam where the Rambam cites his position on the permissibility of Gentiles bringing sacrifices to the Jewish temple. But he uses a censored text of Maimonides. I will now read the censored text. Aval ha'akum, but this is an acronym for star worshipper in Hebrew. Ein mekabel mahem ela olot bilvad, shenemer umiyad beinecher lot lakrivu et lechem elokechem, vafilu olot ha'of, mekablin min ha'nachri, af al pi shehu oved avodah zarah. Now mind you, this again is the censored text. This is the version of Rambam that I favor. In this case, this is the Makbili, where the Mishnah Torah is all in one volume. It's the uncensored version. Now, while in this case the particular change of word that I'll reference, guy and goyim, doesn't matter as pertains to the halacha in this case, it does in other cases. And so when a rabbi uses a flawed source in an era when the best corrected versions of Rambam are available, that's quite problematic. Let's read a little within the brackets. Bet. V'echad anashim, whether it's men, echad nashim, or avadim, or women or slaves, mevian kol ha'karbonot, they can bring all sacrifices. Avol hagoyim, not akum, goyim, meaning all Gentiles. It's not a pejorative term here. It's referring to nations. Any Gentile, ein mekabel lahem ela olot bilvad, right? And in this case, it's only burnt offerings. At the end of the paragraph, we see afilu olot ha'of, even these types of burnt offerings, birds, bekabel min hagai. Again, the use of the word gai, not akum, not star worshipper, not nachri, af al pi shehu avodah zarah. Even though he worships idols, but in this case, he can indeed bring, if he follows the Jewish law, if he follows the Jewish teachings, if he follows our sovereignty, he could bring a certain type of carbon. Now, this is the point. This is a very critical point. This has nothing in common with interfaith prayer. Whatever the failings of this particular Gentile, who may still be very far from worshiping Hashem correctly, he is under our rules. He is following our priests, our halacha. Whatever thoughts in his head, he must outwardly project a commitment to Hashem when he brings the korban. Furthermore, all the restrictions, what he can't bring, where he has to stand, how he has to behave, as far as being limited in where he could go. He can't do smicha, he can't lean on the animal. He can only bring the burnt offerings. He can't bring a sacrifice for, say, a korban asham. He must follow the halacha. This has nothing to do with interfaith prayer. And so this is a very, very important point. Because a rabbi who would cite this, Rambam of all people, who was so strict vis-a-vis Christianity as a faith, to use this as an example to justify interfaith prayer, which is laden with so many problems with evangelical Christians, is an obscenity, is dishonest, and it's an egregious desecration of Hashem's name. Having failed terribly in his efforts to justify interfaith prayer with the Rambam, by distorting the Rambam, this personage then decided to distort Reb Moshe Feinstein in his Igros Moshe Orach Chaim Chelik Bet Siman Chaf Hey, whereby in the responsum, the issue of the short prayer for kids before school is addressed. In the Tshuva cited, Reb Moshe makes very clear, where he references that short prayer that regarding what children say in public schools, and that it's clear that there's no hint at Christianity, because schools were also made for Jews and other nationalities, and it's a wonderful country, and the leaders of the country are very noble, Anshe Chesed, and they don't want to impose their faith on the citizens. And so, Reb Moshe explains, they made a text that really thought about this, and we don't have to be concerned that it was made with priests with intent, converting Jews to their faith. So he said it's not there's no prohibition. And there's no reason to suspect that it'll look bad, because they're praying together. It was intended for everyone, for his own faith and thought. To fully appreciate how strict Reb Moshe Feinstein was on interfaith matters that were not relating to dialogue or prayer, we can look at this excellent translated tshuva, Yoredea 3, number 43, Igrot Moshe, where it's a response dealing on such matters that was translated, I believe, by David Ellenson, president of Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, and this is from the American Jewish Archives. And we can see here Reb Moshe is very strict, where he's talking about that even though you will discuss things that were non-theological in nature, it is clear and simple that these things are a grave violation of the prohibition against things that are related to idolatry, right? And also, in many locales, on account of this initiative of their new pope, whose only intent is to cause all the Jews to abandon their pure and holy faith so that they will accept Christianity. And he continues, consequently, all contact and discussion with them, even on worldly matters, is forbidden, for the act of drawing near is in and of itself forbidden, as it falls into the category of the grave prohibition against rapprochement with idolatry, hitkarvut im avodah zarah, drawing close. It's really important to read this final paragraph there, and one should also consider this drawing near as falling underneath the category of prohibition, very critical, against the one who entices, hamesit, and the one who leads astray, hamadiach. These are strict words in Judaism. For even though you and the other Orthodox rabbis, rabbanim, who will go there, will surely be cautious about you'll say, and you will behave well, and you're not gonna make the mistakes as Reform. So you're not going to make the mistakes as the Reform and conservative rabbis, who by definition fall into the category of those who entice and lead astray. Nevertheless, many people will learn from your example, and they will attend the sermons of missionaries and the like. Similarly, you should not even send a letter there expressing what you might be prepared to discuss, for all contact with them assists them in their most evil plot. Again, I want to reiterate, the terms that Rav Moshe is using are very, very strict, to say the least. If you look at the Gemara and you look at what the Rishonim and Achronim, these are harsh words. Similarly, it is forbidden to participate in any way in meetings like the ones I heard that they propose to hold in Boston and Rome. Anyone who participates with them, whether they may be, will be considered among those who entice and lead the community of Israel astray. He continues, Catholic missionaries have labored for years to convert the Jews. It's very interesting. All these early tshuvot and essays, confrontation, were dealing with the Catholics. This was before the evangelicals even made their overtures towards Jews. So nevertheless, it succeeded only in rare instances. God forbid that it be possible that many more Jews would convert to Christianity on account of such joint ventures and become of rabbis like these, rabbis who lack good sense and who desire to engage in such joint meetings with them. And he continues onward, and one cannot put forward a claim on behalf of the one who entices that this was not his intent, for their souls will be culpable, God forbid, in this world and in the world to come. Reb Moshe was so strict. This is what he felt about a non-theological meeting. How could this rabbi, how dare he misuse the Rambam's words, Reb Moshe's words, to justify his Chilul Hashem, his disgrace, his strange fires? I could go on and on this issue. But this part one was just to discuss the issue of how forbidden interfaith prayer is according to halacha, and how no Torah source would ever allow it. And the use of Reb Moshe Feinstein or the Rambam to justify it, whether it's from a layperson or a rabbi, is disgraceful Chilul Hashem. There is no such source for this in Judaism. It is forbidden.